Angela Merkel was the Queen of Europe.
Mir Gott helfe.
But now as she prepares to step down after 16 years leading the EU and Germany, a prince is standing waiting in the wings, ready for his turn in the spotlight. It is none other than Emmanuel Macron, the ardently pro-EU President of France. What will that mean for the EU? It's hard to say, but one thing is certain. Mr. Macron will be looking to put his stamp on the future of Europe. Angela Merkel leaving politics means that the balance of power in Brussels is going to change. And it's going to change in a way it hasn't changed for the 16 years that she's been Chancellor of Germany. During that time, Ms Merkel has been the dominant leader in the EU, the leader of the most successful and influential member state, and she is also probably the most respected leader in EU circles as well. It's not for nothing that she's been nicknamed Mutti or Queen Europe. So who's going to step in? One criticism I have heard levelled against Angela Merkel the most is that she was quite boring, except when she wasn't. On migration, she wasn't boring. When she dropped her objections to the Coronavirus Recovery Fund, she wasn't boring. Now that she's gone, they're looking at a situation where constant hesitancy and cautiousness could be replaced by uncertainty. And when you're talking about a single market of 450 million people, 27 countries, those kind of unknown quantities, especially when you throw into the mix a mercurial French president who very much has his own ideas about the future of Europe, could make for very interesting viewing. This is the moment for Emmanuel Macron, who himself has been a junior partner to Angela Merkel, like the last two French presidents, to reassert French authority in Brussels, to reassert its position at the top table. EU policymaking has traditionally always been driven by the Franco-German engine. If Paris and Berlin agree on something, it tends to happen. And we saw this very recently in the discussions over the EU's Coronavirus Recovery Fund. Now, that was a real taboo buster. Angela Merkel finally moved, she listened to Emmanuel Macron, and it happened. The idea that the German Chancellor would agree to pooling common debt with other EU member states outside of Germany had always been anathema to her and to her party. But Merkel pushed it through, and Macron claimed it as a victory. Now, is that a shape of things to come? Is it possible that Emmanuel Macron could dominate the next German Chancellor?
If the polls are right, and it's a big if, there's going to be a huge upheaval, a huge change in Germany. Merkel's party is heading for defeat after almost 16 years in power. The centre-left Social Democrats, the equivalent of the British Labour Party, who everyone had written off in Germany as a spent force, have made a stunning comeback and look set for victory. The Green Party, who everyone thought had replaced the Social Democrats as the party of the left, have suffered a terrible collapse in their support. They've gone from first in February to third heading into the elections and look nowhere near scraping together enough to form a government. But that said, in Germany there's always a coalition. No one ever gets an absolute majority. So it will all depend on the coalition negotiations that will follow the election. But what the election will tell us is who gets to start trying to put a government together, and it looks very much like it's going to be Olaf Scholz of the Social Democrats, currently finance minister in Merkel's coalition government, but head of a left-wing party that has a very different agenda. Scholz, I think, by instinct, is very Merkelian. He served as Merkel's finance minister. He's presented himself to the voters as her natural heir. He's in her mould, and I think he will continue with her approach, which is cautious but very pro-European, pro-integration but slow integration, not the sort of Macron high-speed model.
It is possible that he or she will want to join up with Emmanuel Macron early on in the chancellorship, show that the Paris-Berlin engine, the axis, is still working well, and agree an ambitious programme of EU integration. Angela Merkel has been criticised for not being ambitious enough, for not using her massive influence over the years to really drive forward the European project in a great step forward. I think there will be added impetus behind some of Mr. Macron's pet projects and some of Angela Merkel's CDU's pet projects. And that is based on the idea that Europe must be a Europe that protects, a Europe but stands over its citizens against the buffets of globalization and against the buffets of Russia, the United States and China. President Macron is facing elections next year, and his main rival is Marine Le Pen, the Eurosceptic leader of the hard-right National Rally Party. The general consensus is Mr. Macron will beat Mrs. Le Pen, but she is expected to get to the second round. What we have is Brussels' blue-eyed poster boy for integration facing off against a populist hero, one whose successes in previous European elections gave succor and support and bolstered movements in Italy, Austria arguably, and other European countries. France, taking back what it would see as its place at the top table of the European Union, is a massive argument in favour of Mr. Macron's presidency to French voters. The French don't like being told what to do, that's true. But what are the chances of France being told what to do if they're running the show?